Hi, good evening everyone, and good evening Alexandra and Hélène. Kind of talking to you and not looking at you, which is odd. My name is Isabel Whiteleg. I'm the curator of the public programmes here at Nottingham Contemporary. Thank you very much for being here. As you may know, we're going to beam in a conversation from Paris, and it looks like everything is functioning on a technical level. We're just going to begin with a short introduction from me to both of the partners in conversation, and then a little bit about how both of them have entered into the programme here at Nottingham Contemporary. So, beginning with Hélène Cixous. In the English-speaking world, novelist, philosopher, and playwright Hélène Cixous is recognised for the idea of écriture féminine, feminine writing in an English translation, as well as for the prolificacy and distinct style of her own writing, which, fiction and not, freely crosses the critical with the poetic. Although viewed often as a proponent of French feminism, the term used by Cixous is instead feminine. The feminine as a position, as an adjective not exclusively applied to women, and écriture féminine then as a way of writing apart from a normative male syntax associated with the grammatical and rhetorical strictures primarily associated with a Western canon of knowledge. Cixous is also noted for her role in initiating and developing new models of education. In post-1968 Paris, she was appointed chargée de mission in the founding of the experimental Université de Paris 8. Designed as a place of learning with an alternative structure to the usual hierarchies of institutional education, and counting Michel Foucault, Félix Guattari, and Gilles Deleuze amongst its faculty. In 1974, she founded the Centre de Recherche en Études Féminines at Paris 8, and initiated a permanent weekly seminar on the poetics of sexual difference. The borders between the visual and the verbal, the seen and the unseeable, amongst a number of recurrent motifs across Cixous' work. And in more recent years, she has developed a number of close collaborations with visual artists, including Ronnie Horn and Alexandra Grant. Alexandra Grant is a Los Angeles-based artist who uses language as a source for imagery in sculpture, painting, drawing, and video. Collaboration is a defining aspect of her practice, and her work has for some time held a relationship to Hélène Cixous' writing. And based upon this ongoing exchange, Alexandra is now in the midst of a multifaceted project entitled Interior Forest. For this, Grant has focused on Cixous' book Philippines as a source for imagery, centering on the repeating thematic of the forest as a profound shared space. Within Interior Forest, Grant examines the twinned ideas of Philippines, such as dreaming and reality, telepathy and empathy, and relationships between man and woman, adult and child, and colony and colonizer, through illustration of the text, an installation of the forest as image and stage set, and through collaborations with other artists and the public. The writing of Cixous first wove its way as a reference within the programme here at Nottingham Contemporary in the context of a 2011 exhibition inspired by the life and work of Georges Genet, who was one of several male writers whose work for Cixous embodies the qualities of écriture féminine, and the subject of her book, Maintaining the Wound, which I'm translating from the French title, published in French in 2011, around the same time as the Genet exhibition, coincidentally. Her writing resurfaced in the context of the current exhibition, Aquatopia, the Imaginary of the Ocean Deep, via an intuitive association with what the imaginary of that deep ocean would be, as much by reference to the way in which the sea figures across her writing, not least in its association with the topography of the feminine, and in particular the mother, the French word for which is almost the same word as the sea. In looking into this, I've looked for the places where the sea occurs in the writing not only of Cixous, but also that of one of her twins, Brazilian novelist Clarice Lispector, a writer whose translation into French and subsequently the English language owes much to Cixous' reading of it. And for the pleasure of it, I'm just going to read 3 different excerpts that trace the relationship between the two according to their relationship to the motif of the sea. The first from Cixous, which is an excerpt which appears within the book, the catalogue that accompanies Aquatopia, which is winging its way to Nottingham as we speak. Write, and your self-seeking text will know itself better than flesh and blood, rising, insurrectory though kneading itself with sonorous perfumed ingredients, a lively combination of flying colours, leaves and rivers plunging into the sea we feed. Ah, there's her sea, he will say as he holds out to me a basin full of water from the little phallic mother from whom he's inseparable. But look, our seas are what we make of them, full of fish or not, opaque or transparent, red or black, high or smooth, narrow or bankless, and we are ourselves sea, sand, coral, seaweed, beaches, tides, swimmers, children, waves. More or less waverly sea, earth, sky, what matter would rebuff us? We know how to speak them all. Heterogeneous, yes, for her joyous benefit she is erogenous. She is the erogeneity of the heterogeneous. Airborne swimmer, in flight, she does not cling to herself, she is dispersible, prodigious, stunning, desirous and capable of others, of the other woman that she will be, of the other woman she isn't, of him, of you. And here, Cixous, in The Approach, writing on the work of Clarice Lispector. In these violent and lazy times in which we do not live what we live, we are read, we are forcibly lived, far from our essential lives. We lose the gift. We no longer hear what things want to tell us. We translate, everything is translation. There is almost nothing left of the sea, but a word without water. For we have also translated the words. We've emptied them of their speech, dried, reduced, embalmed them, and they can no longer recall to us the way they used to rise up from the things as the burst of essential laughter, when out of joy they called each other, they rejoiced in their fragrance name, and sea smelt of seaweed, sounded salt, and we tasted the infinite loved one. We licked the stranger, the salt of her word on our lips. And finally, Clarice herself, in a short story called Waters of the Sea, from a collection called Soulstorm. The sea does recur a lot through Lispector's work, and she often speaks of wanting to taste it or drink it as a way of connecting with it. There it is, the sea, the most incomprehensible of non-human existences. And here is the woman on the beach, the most incomprehensible of living beings. As the human being one day asked itself a question about itself, it became the most incomprehensible of living beings. She and the sea, their mysteries can only meet if one surrenders to the other, the surrender of 2 unknowable worlds, made with the confidence with which 2 understandings give themselves up. And now, the conversation between Hélène and Alexandra that I will shortly hand over to is a way of connecting the coincidence between Cixous as a reference for our programme here and a source for the Interior Forest project, currently enjoying its 2nd iteration at Main d'Oeuvre in Paris. In conversation, Alexandra and Hélène will depart from a consideration of the forest as the central motif of their project to create a conversation that explores the place of the sea and the subaquatic within the body of Cixous' writing. Finally, I would like to extend my thanks to both of them for creating this opportunity, and thank to the writer and lecturer Sarah Jackson of Nottingham Trent University, who with contributions by the artist Emma Cocker has facilitated our current Cixous reading and writing group, Sight Unseen, many members of which are here tonight. And finally, just on timings, Alexandra and Hélène will speak for no more than 45 minutes. And then, all being well with sound and communication, we can take questions from the floor and transmit them to Paris and receive answers. So, okay, on that note, I'm going to hand over to Hélène and Alexandra in Paris. Thank
you. We have what sounds the sea Good evening, everyone. I think they hear us. We're having some technical issues, so we just want to make sure. Can you hear us in Nottingham?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. We say hello from Paris. Well, Helen and I are thrilled to join you tonight. We can't see you, and you can't see our audience here. But we'd like to start. Here we are.
You're underwater.
Oh, there you are. Hello, everyone. We are underwater. So, welcome to our transmission. Maybe I'll start out with a question to you. One of the themes of Philippines, because that's the book, obviously, that we're focused on here at the Fauna, the Interior Forest Project, is how the imagery of trees and the imagery of water is intertwined. There are subterranean waters. There are telepathic lakes that your twinning in the book, Jakarta, walked around the sea, contemplated.
It's a huge theme, anyway. First of all, may I say that the forest is the present that you generously offered to Philippines, because the trees in my book are actually prisoners, and they're not forest trees, but they're trees that are enclosed in gardens, behind bars, and maybe they dream of becoming forests. So, I accept your reading.
Thank you. That's one of the wonderful things about being a visual artist, creating the writer, is that one is able to translate and mistranslate.
It's not a mistranslation. It's really the way we read, the way we connect with the other. And I realized immediately that you had slightly drifted, which is the way we go on. That is, we're different twins, as you see. So, may I come back to the central images that infuse everything in Philippines, and which you have recaptured later? It's a mixture of, of course, there are trees and water. The sea is distant. It's in the distance, and as Isabelle said, there's a pun in French, the signifier mère, that has a homophone or a kind of homonym, which is the mère. That is, in French, if you hear the word mère, you don't know whether you speak about the sea or the mother. But I'm more interested, actually, in the word mother, which is matter. It's really matter. It's the material aspect of creation. So water is important, and I think that trees. Let me add metaphors, which is the way painting works and drawing works. Trees are like pens that plunge into a kind of wonderful ink pot. and the ink is that subterranean water that they look for. But the central metaphors in Philippines, apart from the title, on which we'll maybe come back, is it's a kind of primal scene or primal image of an enclosed garden. Which is surrounded with railings made of vertical bars, and this garden or park, as we say in French, you find in the same way, likewise, in my native country, Algeria, and in Paris. you have, and of course in England you would find that, I mean, maybe in Kensington, although I think Hyde Park is open, of course, but there are so many enclosed parks. And when you're inside the enclosure, and you think that you're inside, and you look through the railings, through the bars, you don't know exactly whether you're inside or outside, or who is inside, or what is inside, and what is outside. And this is actually, it's one of our essential questions. Are we inside or are we outside everything? This, for instance, now, where are we? You and me? I don't know whether we're inside or outside, nothing. And we are actually puzzled. That's the enigma of our lives. Not only where are we, but of course, since we don't know where we are exactly, we don't either know who we are exactly. Well, several of course. And so this, and Isabel said that I mostly relate to the mother as sea, but really, for me, the image of the figure, the purpose of the mother, is more frequently embodied by totally different item, if I can say so. And it's a tower. It's for me, it's the Tower of Montaigne. You know about Montaigne, the wonderful French writer. His library that has been living for 500 years is situated in a small tower, which you might consider, it's 3 times smaller than the Tower of London. It's a round tower, and it's in the middle of the most beautiful landscape in France, in a part of the country which is southwest. And it's like both a tower, a mother, the mother of all the thoughts and essays of Montaigne. And it's a kind of eternal tree, which has its roots in the history and myths of French culture. But at the same time, if you go inside the tower, which is very small, and you see a kind of summing up of everything, of the whole of French history and culture and Catholicism, etc. On the walls, it's circular, and so it's an image of what you did actually. On the walls, there are paintings, exactly as you did. That is, they had the walls of his tower painted, exactly as Alexandra did here, both in LA and here in Paris, and then, of course, transmitted to Nottingham. And of course, they've been degraded by centuries, but you can still see tiny details. And so these walls, there are stone walls, they actually open through painting onto immense tales, myths, nature, and you have on one of the walls you have the lattice or the kind of drawing of a window in a prison, in a jail, and the window is of course barred this way. And there's a tree over growing this kind of allegorical image of what the prison is. And it's only there, and you only have light and darkness, the prison and the tree. And it took me years, I went there every year, it took me years to realize that this was my inner, not forest then, but it's a kind of forest, primitive image. I think that art, my own art, your art, has to do with being prisoner and finding to evade. Which you did here. I mean, everybody who participated here in the creation that was animated, inspired by Alexandra, everyone was trying to evade it somehow. And I wish you could see what the people did, because they, in a very spontaneous way, each person has exteriorized that interior, and always in the deepest way.
One of the first gestures that was done in the interior forest painting, both in Los Angeles and here in Paris, was that two different artists, unknown to each other, stuck their hands in paint and began putting their fingerprint all over. And when you talk about the primitive urge, and the other day we were in the gallery and I said, isn't it interesting, this is so connected to the history of painting. Here in Paris we have a fake Manet and Picasso ended up in the literature painting. But these fingerprints reminded me of cave painting, and your response was actually no, it's this desire to touch. Can you talk a little bit more about that desire?
I would of course have loved the public to see those prints.
It's true.
First of all, it's really prints. It's the first piece of art, prints, and it's a way also of sign, and it's a multi-signature. It's not only one fingerprint. It's 5 people, 5 beings cooperating and making traces. And then, of course, why do you do that? Because you might kiss also the door, I suppose it happens too. But no, it's really that you want to touch. It's also something that is compulsive, immediate. You just, you want touch. Maybe the first body, maybe the end of the world, or maybe the beginning of the world, or over the prism. And if you imprint something on the wall, the prism, which is blank and mute, then you start a conversation, and you're on the way to freedom. So actually, when Alexandra told me that in both cases, in the same way, the first 2 people who came into the cave did exactly the same, had exactly the same initiative. I thought it was extraordinary. Also because what Alexandra is doing is something quite exceptional. She opens a space. She's a kind of magician. She opens a space to anybody, the first comer, whoever wants, whoever feels like whoever is not afraid of it. What she does is open the world for people not to be afraid of expressing something which is a secret in a way, and not being afraid of not being the most powerful artist, but being a medium. And that is operated by the fact that no one can pretend he is the author, or she is the author. Since it's indeed a work of art with 100 artists, each one has the right of an artist. And the fact that doesn't come back in a narcissistic way to the somebody who has claims on the work, but on the contrary, it goes out in a way of sharing, partaking, that makes people extraordinarily free. And what they do is extraordinary. It's real. And also, they do something, but in the moment they do it, except for the first printer, all the others are already, without knowing it, in a conversation. They're receiving what the others have done, not that they answer, but they totally imprinted with the images of the others, etc. And it becomes rhythmical and musical. But this is rare. It never happens, actually.
It's truly polyphonic. So I'm always interested in how people read you and how each reader is so different. This is a visual manifestation of reading, whether it's a short phrase. Just to be clear with the audience, how the project just works, that we installed about 130 feet of paper, about 6 feet tall, and ran the text across the top of the drawing. And all the key phrases were circled and put on Post-it notes, a very high technology. And people could come to the gallery and choose a word that's to them. And one of the things they really saw is that people immediately, we had a marionnettiste, a puppet maker, who found the word marionette. This is of course there, but people find the words that are their words, that are shibboleth. And I think that's another key to text. What word unlocks the prison door, the prison gate? How does that work? Because I would say without every person who's into the gallery says, I can't draw. And I would say, well, just take a look around. Find your magic word that touches you. And then they disappeared 2.5 hours later. They did, these incredible things. So can you talk a little bit of how words work to create images in readers and pens,
Well, it's really, again, because people are not prohibited, because they're not forbidden to do things, so relate to the song or the just childhood. And in childhood, you're poets, you do everything. You draw drawings, etc. Then, of course, you put it and you drop it. But here, they are allowed to. They don't even. I spoke with one of the technicians of Amanda, a middle-aged man, a very sweet person, and he showed me what he had done among the 100 drawings that were jolting together. And it was something that for him was the essential of his life. One thing was I had a dream, so he had dreamt here and there. And then he wanted to write the promised land, and he told me I didn't do it because I couldn't picture the promised land. So that direction, one can't see the promised land. One imagines it, one dreams of it, but to make a drawing of the promised land is something that hasn't happened. But it was so and he was really hoping for the promised land, but the promised land wasn't the wall. No, it was there. So I think that keywords, the keywords of the heart, are viewed. And people don't think that, usually they're afraid of words, books, literature, etc., etc. Here, on the contrary, it's open. It's like a kind of huge meal. You can pick up this or that. But it's, you pick up this fruit or that fruit or this leaf. You do what you want with it. And I think that I don't think that anybody, as you say, they say, I don't know. But you don't have to know. I mean, art is not knowing, it's not knowledge. It's, of course, following something that happens from behind, from afar, and that guides you. But they're just newly born artists.
One of the things that I think new readers to your work is they often feel this is, I forgive the American word, but they feel empowered by reading and writing. And there's a sense where a reader will identify with your multiple characters in the book. And I wonder if there's a way, or in your writing in general, if there's a way of connecting sort of the imagery of your text with the possibility of joining a collaborative drawing. But there's something so suggestive. I mean, there are writers whose work shuts down. There's almost only one reading. And I think that the sort of multiple lenses that are discussing multiple abilities is one of the great gifts that you've been a visitor. Now, I don't think it was a question, I'm going to keep going. And to get back on track in terms of the imagery of the water, I'd really like to talk a little bit more about the sense of water, not just in the Philippines, but these ideas of the lakes and this terrain of water were so profound. And I'll get back to this section that I'm remembering on Jacques Derrida. And they keep us, Philippines is about, it's about telepathy, it's about connecting in an equal way with another. And it's about so many of the people that you love. And thinking about those exchanges. Now, Jacques wrote a lot about telepathy and about Freud's essays that were unpublished. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that scene in the book where he's looking along this lake, having thoughts that were, I think, even suicidal in the book.
You mean Derrida?
Yeah.
First of all, let's say a few words about telepathy, which is a word that that's what you can play with it. You can do so many things with telepathy. Telepathical theory, for instance. Freud played with the idea of telepathy. That is when he was still young scientist. One would ask, telepathy was, everybody believed in telepathy in the early years of the 20th century. And everybody would ask, do you believe telepathy? So, rational would say, it's not. And Freud didn't know. So he just put it aside. And at the exercise, gradually, you see the theme of telepathy to be appearing slowly, and he never decides. It remains inside. If you separate telepathy from superstition, etc., we are all telepaths. We communicate all the time, either technologically or we share, and particularly, of course, the people we love. We keep sharing experiences of immediate connection. That is, it's at a distance and it's at the same time immediate. For instance, you all have the experience of falling asleep on the phone, and the person tells you, I was just about to fall. So, why? Because we live in a forest. We live together in the sitting garden or forest or cave or hut. And we are friends with others. And so all day long, actually, we deliver things. We keep telling, for instance, while I speak with you, I'm telling somebody I love, I'm here, of course, with a low voice. I'm here in Mander with Alexandra and all kinds of people who are virtual friends, and we cross distances. We're very close and very far, and I'll tell you about that later when I come home. And the phone, it's just communicating in this, but that's exactly what a book does, what the painting does. They speak it, they send messages. So, Derrida, with whom I telepathize all the time, and used to, and go on doing, he remembered later in his life that when he was very young, he had written a kind of poem. At the time when he dreamt he would be a poet, it was 3 or 4 lines long, and it dealt with and what made him remember it particularly was that in our country, Algeria, where we were, there are no lakes. No one has seen a lake in Algeria. You hear it. I never saw a river in Algeria. There are no rivers. So it's something that belongs to the green lands a little up north. And later in his life, he realized that this lac, that's LAC, was also a piece of word which you could reverse in every way, as in an anagram. It could be couple, it could be cloud, etc. And out of it, he wove a huge book, as if that was the germ. There are many such lac in French literature. There is there are many lac in Proust. And actually, Proust was born in Auteuil, near Paris, near a lake. And the lake was very important. In Peter Ibbotson, the book I speak about, in Philippine, which is my favorite book, everything happens around the lake, which is full of archaic amphibians. So, but you all have lakes. I mean, we all have lakes, inner lakes. Sometimes we don't know about them, and sometimes we are warned about them, or we discover them. They're also not only, remember, the sea is the ocean. I live on the ocean when are gods. They are huge forces. Then you have miniature seas, which are full of mysteries, and they, of course, relate to our unconscious.
All right, I'm gonna that might be the next project.
Yours.
Well, do you think this is a good time to open up questions to the audience, and also have an audience here from Paris? What do you think, Nottingham? You can see from the back. Do you have we have a question in Paris? Yeah? Okay. Does anyone have a question here in our audience in Paris? Wilkie? No questions? Well, then I'll keep
because one should have drawings, you know.
I know, we're talking about something I can't see, which is, well, that's part of the process in describing something through works and then seeing to images. I'm really, I was really struck as one always learns things about old friends while speaking with them over Skype but I was really struck by the idea, I'd never heard you speak about Algeria and the actual landscape of your child, and the idea that lakes, rivers are at a distance. And when you were talking about the prison, you also said that the sea is at a distance, so that the water is always at a distance. And that sense also of the promised land never being attainable. I couldn't help but think there was a connection between we're in prison with the trees, but the exploration I think seems the shape of Nora.
But that's not the question.
I know, I'm very good at that.
But let me speak about the landscape in Algeria, which is basic. Actually, it's in TV. All the trees that talk about are Algerian trees, orange trees, and of course you now have them in Europe. But it's very luxuriant, the vegetation in Algeria, and there are huge parks, botanical gardens, with exotic type of trees that are sometimes thousands of years old, and they have a particularity which I only found again in California. It is really strongly. You know that in Europe the trees don't speak smell because it's cold. They whisper. In Algeria they shout. They shout with birds. They shout with perfume, and they are inhabitants of the cities and in the country that are extremely impressive. You think that they have something powerful, and at the same time they're warrior-like because they have to resist also the dryness, the sun. So one small gardens were important for me, and they were planted by my father too. And I always thought that they were as innovative, the Latin words. They are as human beings that have been metamorphosed. You feel that. You feel that they are human.
In the Cixous reading group that we've been holding in Los Angeles, one of the members is a botanist, and her interpretation of things is pretty different from everyone else's, because she'd say, oh, and Helen's talking about imagery means a hallucination, and that she was able to explain and decode every plant that you mentioned, and I was...
They're really plants, absolutely. But you know, those plants, I'm a plant writer. And
you're a plant writer?
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
But I plant words. Or sometimes I up them when they're not exactly where they should be. I graft them, etc. But there are plants in many great French works of literature. Many in Chateaubriand, many in Proust. There are some great writers who don't have exchange with the vegetable world. For instance, in Stendhal, you'll find some orange trees, but they either are toilet or fruits, So, but otherwise, I think they're part of the world, and the world of writing, the world of painting, and Alexandra has planted a number of art trees. There's a tree, there's the umbrella tree, there's the hanger trees, the hanger tree, which is, you see the tree, and it's only after a long time that you realize that it's actually made of 100 hangers. Not, and here I should also add that when you make a tree hangers, it's a pity you don't have the image. It's a tree. It's a very airy tree. I mean, the air goes through the hands. But there's also everything that will come along with the word, with the signifier. But you can also imagine that you hang not only clothes, but those hangers are naked, but they might be clothed, and they might also have people who have been sentenced to hanging. But it's huge. You can go on and on with that.
But there are a number of beheadings and hanged men in Philippines, so that's a go. Bad idea.
There's a lot of life in death.
Yes, we have a question in Paris. Okay.
So you should stop with him.
Okay.
So they didn't hear anything.
Well, they must have heard. But you heard the question.
You couldn't hear the questions?
No, we can't hear the questions in Nottingham.
So Nottingham, can you hear us? No. No, they've been actually.
We can still hear you if you can hear.
Isabel, maybe we should open the room to questions now that we have proper.
Do you? I think.
We have about 20 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
With your questions from your audience, we don't hear the question. So if you want to answer your question in Paris, then you could repeat it.
We didn't have a question. We have a technical concern.
That's Skype for you.
I know, but I think all is well. So we have about 25 more minutes with Helen, so we'd love to answer any questions, Isabel.
Okay, I'll see if I can entice any out of our Nottingham audience.
Or a parent?
So they heard nothing?
No, they heard everything.
Oh, they heard it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just the recording here.
I see.
Does anyone want to ask? Hello. Thank you very much for talking to us. I wondered if you could say something about the significance of the shore in your work, Hélène, please.
The shore, the seashore.
Oh, the shore. In my work or in our work?
In both your work, that would be great.
Yeah. It's most important, of course. I think that we are explorers of shores. Let's say that, for instance, it would begin with Shakespeare. It begins with a tempest. Everybody is drowned. All is lost, as you remember. And all is lost. I mean, all lost. No one is left except the shore. There's a shore, and suddenly, in a couple of since you reach a shore. I think that this is maybe one of the most powerful places, since it's the limit. You never know where a shore begins, where it ends, whether you're going to reach it. And to refer to another very well-known allegory of shores, you know that when you go from life to death, in Greek and Roman mythology, you go from one shore to the other. You're on the shore of the Acheron, still on the side of life, and then you travel to the other shore, which is the side of death. We're organized by the idea of shores, by the images of shores. All times and all species are totally structured by the impossibility to draw a shore. You know, you have to have two different elements in order to have a shore. We, for instance, Alexandra and I, we shore together when we go from writing to drawing. We don't know where the shore is. It's somewhere in between.
We have a question here in Paris.
I don't think so. But and I have to understand the meaning of the tree. So I don't the actuality experience and being able to go to. I pushed it the last minute on the last day. I couldn't participate in the last hour. And it was incredible to me that it's much more that I really takes almost something back. And I felt like the trees worked enough. That makes sense. The trees
Did the question come across to Nottingham? Well, the core question is about the title of the exhibition being the interior forest and the relationship of our audience member to the sensation of it being more like a shore in the series of painting. Yeah. Well, when Hélène first gave me the book for the Peaks, I was obviously honored, and then quite after reading it, I had a sense of responsibility. Because I had questions. What is telepathy? And the first visit, after reading and rereading the book, I had a series of about 20 questions, and very patiently sat with me as I said, well, what does this mean? What's this image? And the main question, of course, being, well, what is telepathy? What is shoring? And her first definition, for me, that sort of helped to push the project along, was the notion that telepathy is one step further than empathy. And once I began to think about her writing in terms of the theater and collaboration, and that if sympathy and empathy are really vested in the swan self, but that telepathy transcends and creates a more equal exchange between a self and another. But that was what I needed to create in terms of the project. So what would the site of encounter be? Encountering the correct other, the unknown other. And the image that I came up with was the image of the shared dream in Philippines, which was, for me, the forest. It was the forest of Peter Edison. The book of Helen's, it's your favorite, you just said it's your favorite book from childhood. It's a story of two children who are in a garden with walls, playing happily, and as adults are imprisoned. The man, because he's an architect who murdered someone, he's thrown in jail. She's a prisoner of her class as a duchess. But in the film version, played by Cary Grant, they go to sleep in their separate beds and wake up.
It's not
Oh my gosh. Well, Gary Cooper. And we have this recorded in multiple countries.
Yeah, but it means something.
It does mean something.
Excuse me, but Cary Grant is Alexandra Grant.
So I was having a moment. We'll discuss this later on. But the sense that Gary Cooper is going to sleep in his bed, and now I can't remember the name of the wonderful actress. That's just something else about me that we'll also discuss later. But they wake up in this sublime forest set. It's just so beautifully filmed, and it's dappled light. And it's that that I really wanted to capture. And so another conversation with Len, we were talking about what telepathy was. Once the project had found its home here at Menlo and at 18th Street, these two spaces with columns, two columns in the center, just waiting to be wrapped and transformed into trees. That telepathy was this idea of you're sending a message and you're not sure who's going to receive it. So that, I'm picturing shooting an arrow, but also throwing a message in a bottle. You don't know who will get it. And that's part of the creative act, is that you're putting a message into the world and you're not sure who the recipient was. So the forest also, for me, was this site of encounter with the other, where they've been invited. People are invited, but who will receive the message? And but the way the trees function in the exhibition is that they remove someone who's just come off of a street or a highway, in the case of LA, and signify you're not in your daily life anymore. You're in a place where dream is possible. There's a what was sort of crafts, childlikeness to them that says relax, take off your coat, let your fingers get dirty, and a pleasure that adults don't often have. And that idea of coming back, one of the other notion I'm very intrigued at is this idea, it's Baudelairean, in fact, the idea that poetry is written by adults who found their inner child again. That's who poets are. And that's that invitation that I'm giving to the strangers who come in the door, both in Menlo and 18th Street, to come be a poet with me. And that, here are some keywords, here's a beautiful text, and as much information as they need to get started on their evasion.
I should add, going backwards prehistorically, that actually I've known Alexandra's work for many, many years, and she has her own world, which is that's her discovery. Her world is full of letters. It's full of written signs. These written signs are transfigured into their image. They become animated, and they go further than language. It's not pre-linguistic, it's further. So that's why when we, after many years, we felt that we could do something together, I suggested that she should use Philippine because it's obvious. It's a book where she's already at work. And but as you see, it's a matter of message. There's the gallery downstairs, which is that kind of mixture of vertical trees and horizontal fresco, it's a message that is sent by the people and received by people. And yet, of course, we never know exactly what they receive. When I go, for instance, there are 100 different drawings that overlap, that make a palimpsest, and I see when I go first, I read this, that. That is 1 out of 10. I don't know why. They just, they make hello, I see them. Next time I will see another page inside. That's how we work. A reading you cannot do at one reading. You have to read a book at least 100 times. And it's the same thing with a painting. And you cannot see, if you look at a painting or a drawing, you see one of the drawings that are inside the drawing. If you want to see more, you have to come back again and it's infinite.
Any questions?
Yep, I think we've got a couple from Nottingham.
Okay, good. We're viewing through. Okay.
Hi. I've always been really fascinated by the animals that occur in Hélène's work, and I just wondered if there are animals in Philippines or indeed in the forest. Other animals, I mean, apart from the human one.
There are animals, yeah. There are lake animals. Do you hear me? Yes. There are animals that have inspired actually the artists in Paris. For instance, those tiny salamanders that you find in lakes and that seem to come from prehistorical times. These, of course, we don't know much about. For us, they remain to be discovered. But there are also other animals who are part of me. That is, I never write without animals. Actually, my writing table has chairs or beds for my cats because they're always there. And they participate in my writing. So they are in the book. But one might say that there is no impossibility of transmission between different species. Trees, salamanders, human beings, children, cats, lions, or ants. They have something in common. They have many things in common. They create together.
I think in the abstract, we think other.
There are other animals.
Yeah.
There was
2 cats.
Cats came late. Yeah. So it's as if the moment you create, it's of course it's chaotic. It's not ordered. But as in genius, it's chaotic. But every day you have other species appearing and making way on the walls.
Hi. I was very interested in the way that when you were asked about the shore, the first thing you spoke about was the tempest, and I was wondering if you could talk more about the links between shores and shipwrecks, or about the importance of shipwrecks for your work, perhaps. Did you hear that?
in 2 minutes, which is why I like the Tempest, because in 2 minutes you drown and you then go through resurrection. I think that my work is only about that, in losing life and finding another life, which is the common fate, actually. We die many times and we revive or survive. We don't know exactly how, and each time it's experiencing total loss and beginning anew from almost nothing. And this is what literature and art are about, in fashioning or building tiny, tiny lifeboats in order to go over the abyss.
We were able to take about one last question.
You've got one.
Hello, I have just one quick question, which is really how can we continue this extraordinary conversation? And I think you need to know how extraordinary it is for us, because you mentioned slightly drifting at the beginning. Many of us must have been à la dérive for so long because we can hear the start of most sentences and then not always the concluding really important part. So we're having to supply some of your dialogue. If I can only say, for example, you said, Alexandra, for me, telepathy is... And I think we all lost the end of that sentence. So we are being both defeated and enormously stimulated by a strange watery feeling that this technology is somehow floating and the channel is very rough between us. So congratulations for helping us start what I hope will be a series of conversations. It is a real question. Will you get to see this lovely exhibition, which is the framework for some of these marvellous talks?
Even if you listen to it, even if you hear everything, as you know, you lose half or almost everything. And of course, recreate something else, and that's a good thing.
I would love to hear all your definitions of what telepathy is after tonight. That would be wonderful. Well, everyone in Nottingham, you're all invited to Carrots. It's not that far to come and draw. We have one more day of public drawing. The opening is Friday night here. We'd love to see you. And we're just so grateful to Isabel and to Emma for hosting us in this channel conversation through the channel to Nottingham, welcoming us.
Thank you.
It's my entire
parts. I got the intention, I think. Oh, thank you so much. I'm sure there are more questions. Yeah, back at you.
We'll do it again.
We'll do it again. It's been a real pleasure, and thank you to my Nottingham audience for providing some great questions. I'm sure there were more, so I'm sorry we didn't have time to do them, but thank you. It's been an extraordinary experience.
Thank you, Isabel. Good night.
Okay, good evening. Bye. Bye.